Hey, I'm Jonathan, and I live in London, England.
Hey, I'm Jeff, and I live in Perth, Australia.
Together, we are Ekko and Sidetrack.
We produce music that sounds like this.
And this.
And even this. This podcast is about music, creativity, and everything in between the giant space that separates us.
Welcome to A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack. Today's episode of A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack is brought to you by Short Order Burger Co. I, for one, believe it's the best burger in Perth, Australia. And whether you live in Perth and you haven't tried it, or whether you're going to go to Perth and you're looking for the best burger, I advise you go to this place. They've got two stores, one on Hay Street in the city, 800 Hay Street, and one in Fremantle at 3 William Street. The Fremantle is a new store. It looks like an absolute vibe. Great place to go for a drink and enjoy a big old burger. When you go into the store, mention the code word Sidetrack and you'll get 10% off your order. That's a gift from us and a gift from Short Order to you for listening to the podcast. Go out there and enjoy a burger, yo. Jeff, we've just spent the last 30 minutes going on a little bit of a down memory lane, listening to some drum and bass songs that we used to fucking dance and mix like 13 years ago.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Like, where did the conversation start? It's funny, to catch the listener up, we have a little chat beforehand, not as a planning meeting for a podcast. It's just like we just get in the rhythm of talking, or we just catch up. Sometimes do it for longer, sometimes do it for shorter. And today, we're just chatting about all sorts of things, and then talking about like classic drum and bass tunes. Actually, I think it was because I mentioned that I was talking to Ben from Delta Heavy in Brisbane about tunes, like you want to play older tunes, so you have to kind of like remaster them a little bit, like just turn them up a bit.
Yeah, the technology is a lot better now to have brighter and louder mixes. So you want them to, when you mix them in a club, you want them to obviously sound fairly similar in terms of loudness, rather than usually you mix an old tune and it might be a bit quieter or not as full.
Perceived quietness as well, because it probably has just less dynamic range and stuff like that. But yeah, and that started Jonathan and I down a little memory lane tip of being like, oh, remember playing this one? Or like, oh man, what set was that? The set you were referring to, Jonathan, the Sub-Focus set, was that we listened to a lot, was that Sub-Focus back-to-back Friction from Pirate Station 2008.
We did listen to that a lot, and the Aphrodite set from Pirate Station. But the one I'm thinking of is Andy C at Westfest 2007.
Oh, yeah, that's fire.
And maybe Friction at Westfest. There was a couple of Westfest sets.
And there's just like dubs in there that you're like, what tune is this? Like,
and you can hear fucking I can't remember. There was a Sub-Focus set from 2006 that had like an early version of
Let the Story Begin, maybe.
Yeah, it was like just when he was using it as an intro or something. Like, it's really cool to go back and listen to those sets. And
man, I'll never forget in 2008, me and a bunch of friends attended Door Festival in Belgium. Shout out to the Belgium Massive. On day one, we went out there and listened to wall-to-wall drum and bass. And basically we decided to get there at like 4:30 or something, because that's when like the international started. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, but apparently this guy that's playing, like looking at the lineup, I was like, I think that guy's the last of the locals, but he looks really, I've heard of him before somewhere. And that was Murdoch.
Sick. Big up Murdoch.
And then, Shy FX, Pendulum, Sub-Focus, a bunch of, you could look at the lineup. It was crazy. It was just like for the next 9 hours. But Sub-Focus introed with Rocket. And then he went straight into the Voodoo People remix. But I sent you a message on Facebook and I said, yeah, Sub-Focus just introed with some Daft Punk shit and it was crazy.
Yeah. I remember that message. And then, because he played Origin the following year, 2009.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when it was coming out.
Yeah. And then that was around the same time the festivals, that was like summer, early summer, and then by the late summer, that's when Time Warp was finished and like coming out, because I remember John and Peter, they attended one of the festivals.
I think they went to Westfest. I think they were at Westfest 2009, maybe. I don't know.
No,
Yeah,
2008, because they reckon like, they're like, man, this tune just keeps getting played and these certain tunes just keep getting rinsed. And like, you know, a few months later, you work out that the tunes were Mr. Happy and Time Warp.
Isn't it mental that you could play... I mean, for anyone that doesn't listen to drum and bass, you should go listen to the two songs, Mr. Happy by DJ Hazard and Time Warp by Subfocus. So you kind of get some context to what we're talking about. But it's mental that everyone in the world that's a drum and bass DJ still drops Mr. Happy and Time Warp, and it gets such a massive reaction.
There are people that were fucking like 6 years old when that tune came out, and they react like they have heard it for the last 13 years. Like, oh, I remember hearing this back at the festival in 2008.
It's crazy that those tunes are now becoming like legacy tunes to some extent. And then the legacy tunes that when we were out being 18 and like people were referencing, or like the 9 Milky Way by Milky Way ST Files remix, I think. Is it? Or Milky Way by a Ram Trilogy Milky Way?
Vault. The Druids.
No, but no. I mean, like, they were just tunes that came out. I'm talking about tunes from like 1999.
And like
older tunes that like the Heads would play, that, you know, Andy C would bring in over the top of fucking If We Ever or something like that.
The old and the new mixing.
Yeah, which has always been something we're a big fan of. Yeah, it's crazy to think that like now Time Warp and some of that older Subfocus stuff, or even Pendulum's Voodoo People, like that's now 15 years ago. And now that's like the legacy tune. That's the same thing as playing a tune from 1990 in a set in 2005.
Yeah, which is in drum and bass land is pretty impossible. Like, because drum and bass really wasn't around in 1990. It was like,
well, it was jungle
stuff. Yeah, but even that, it would have been pretty early for jungle-y stuff.
Andy plays some fucking sneaks some old stuff in there quite well. But yeah, it was crazy to kind of go. I keep saying crazy. I've got to come up with a better describing word.
I say bonkers a fair bit, and I like that.
We didn't even touch on old TC.
Oh man, there's so many artists like that we could run down a list of just like these are iconic drum and bass tunes that you've probably never heard.
Or you probably have heard,
but you don't know why you're reacting to it.
Yeah.
You know, when Hold Your Colour came out by Pendulum, the album, and all their stuff, that really upped the game and production, because everyone was just like, what the fuck is going on? Because a lot of the older stuff was really well produced and sounded amazing, but it was a lot less musical.
Mm.
And now you look at all these modern songs, they all have a key and like, you know, everything's written with like so many musical elements.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the older tunes are just like, they all mix together because they're all got the same vibe and they're all in a similar, you know, they can be mixed together because there's a lot less precision and surgical production going on.
Well, I think there's a lot less, for lack of a better term, chords being used. Like, you look at some of the older tunes and it's like Sub, they were choosing to use predominantly E, F, and G, the keys, because that's where the heaviest sub frequencies lay.
Oh, I learned something about that the other day, but we'll come back to it. You keep going.
And they would just kind of, it'd be like a simple sampled chord, maybe like a house stab that's pitched around, that's kind of not sticking to a certain key. And it was basically just about vibe. And then when Hold Your Colour, and Pendulum weren't the first people to do it, like Hospital were writing melodic stuff.
No,
obviously, and before that, obviously,
not
like
melodic
signature
stuff. I'm just saying, like, the standard of production went up, and it like that's what
true. Yeah,
kind of leveled things up kind of crazily for a lot of people. But then the production of like early Virus stuff and Bad Company, everything is early Marcus Intellects, things like that is on its own plane. LTJ Bookham, all these people are on their own plane. They're just it's a different style of production. And then
it was kind of like the beginning of dance floor drum and bass, essentially.
Yeah, they created this new thing.
Are you and I amateur drum and bass historians? Because I feel like we're nailing this. Just kidding. We should probably check some dates and fucking try to understand it more. But it's nice to kind of go down memory lane and feel nostalgic for a little bit and play some of those older tunes.
It is.
It reminds me of like, taking records to friends' house and being like, fucking, I've got this, and I'm not going to tell them I've got this and being the first person to play it. I love DJing out, but I still think one of my fucking proudest moments was I played a set. I didn't even play it. You just DJ at people's houses, right? There was a party that my friend had, and we had 2 turntables and 2 CDJs, and I did an introed with Body Pump by Drum Sound Bass.
Everybody pump!
The samples...
Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, fucking sick song. We in fact introed with it at Liquicity 2 years ago. And I double dropped that with maybe Frankie Mountain by Icicle.
Big mix.
And there was like 10 people there. But I remember Eric looked over and gave me a look. What the fuck? And that's probably my proudest moment in my entire career of all the double drops I've done, of all the fucking things. I remember just like nailing it on records, and like that's the first time. I think that was the first time I'd done the mix, but it just sounded fucking sick. And like that excitement of seeing your friends excited at mixes you were doing.
Yeah, that's
just being in a room with like 3 or 4 dudes and being like, "What the fuck is that song?" Like
it's loud, and you're like, "Yes, yes, yes."
Yeah.
And then especially because you're all learning how to DJ, and on vinyl, you've got to do the mix. You can't just rewind it a little bit and then like try it again and skip ahead so easily. So you've kind of got you. I remember being in the room when someone's doing a good mix and being like, "He's gonna nail it. This is gonna double drop perfectly." Which for the listeners that don't know what a double drop is, it's when you drop 2 tunes at the same time and then you mix them together over each other, but you're cutting frequencies to allow the tunes to better interplay between each other, thus creating a new song almost.
Yeah.
Man, that moment. And then also, I remember being in the room and being like, "Oh, he's not going to make the mix." But that would have sounded sick. And then kind of noting down that those 2 tunes will sound sick together. Like if you just, that tune's got 8 extra bars, start it here. Like, those endless pieces of paper, those notes that we have, Jonathan.
Fuck, man. Notebooks. You got notebooks still sitting in the studio, I'm pretty sure. I reckon they're just to your left. I reckon underneath the synth holder, there's a fucking... There's 2 notepads in there, in a little filing system that's full of mixes from 10 years ago. Or maybe 2012, I'm thinking of the one. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a filing system for mixes so you could search one song and then it came up all the mixes that you had done? So you input all the information from all these books and all the notes you've ever taken, you digitize it all, and then you're like, "Oh, I need a mix for Time Warp." And you search Time Warp, and then it comes up with every mix you've done with Time Warp that's worked. So you can be like, "Oh, sick.
Bledge,
Liberation VIP by Enei." Like, all these other...
giving away secrets, Jonathan. No, but that would be so good. I feel like that could be an addition to rekordbox, like you kind of mark two tunes as linked, and then you can say like, what tunes have you got linked to these?
I haven't updated
things.
rekordbox since number 3 out of fear of a crash. So maybe
5.
that's actually a function on.
I doubt it, but if anyone
US1.
from Pioneer is listening, feel free to add it, and that would be cool. I'm sure someone could probably like write a script that does it. So 2 things I was going to say before we change subject.
Yes.
If you would like to have a bit of a trip down memory lane in the drum and bass world, Alex AMC has done some really great mixes recently. The Digging Deep series, they're so fucking cool. Big shout out to Alex. He's the very definition of a bad man DJ with like mad depth.
He's probably the equivalent of that data file that I want. Like, I bet we could just message him right now and be like, "Hey, what would you mix? Like, give me 5 different mixes for this tune," and he'd be like,
and several teasers.
Like this, and then I'd go into this. Like, yeah, he's a fucking wealth of knowledge.
He is, and a beautiful soul. But some of his Digging Deep series, or even just going online and looking for some of these old tape packs and things like that. That's a bit of the curse of drum and bass now, or any culture now. It kind of exists in places where people put it, and there's nowhere near as many forums and that kind of thing. Like where people are just like, here's an upload for this set. And you're like, wow, that's awesome. And you just download this, like, the file quality was shoddy, but it was so sick. And it would just like be chopped in random spots and starting in others, but it was so good. Like, it was amazing. And the second thing I'll say, coming all the way back to what you were saying about tunes being written in E, F, or G, it's kind of obvious when you think about it. From a music production point of view, but the reason they said those frequencies resonated better in clubs is because often the cutoff for your lows, your low boxes, your subs, would be around 80. So if the roll off is like, if the cutoff is 80, things are going to get a bit dicey around 75. And then it's all going to go to your middle boxes for 80, say 80 to maybe 500 or something. So if too much of your song exists like, above A and stuff, you're losing potential impact in the sub because none of that frequency will come through out of the low boxes.
Yeah, so you mean the cutoff,
the cutoff of the speaker,
the high. Yeah, but you don't mean like a low cut. You mean a high cut.
Yes, because
on the sub.
Because a speaker set is built in. Now I could be butchering this, but a speaker set is like there's the low box, the medium box, and then there could be a high, or there could be like 2 mids, and they've got like cutoffs in certain spots that are kind of immovable. Only this frequency of sound comes out of this box. Ultimately you want all the boxes to be on with all the sound. But if you're only using, maybe you don't use the top box because it's just low frequency sounds, that's cool. That's got impact and oomph. But if you don't use the bottom box at all because you're using like, a high D sharp or something
in the bass,
you could be, and you're looking for impact out of that sound, but it's a good, palette cleanser from all the other low end to go high and do stuff like that. But it's just an interesting thing to think about. Like, if you're dropping your song on, call it 80 hertz or 85 hertz, and that particular club has a cutoff around there, then you're going to get this like weird crossover zone. I mean, that's getting a little bit technical, and also, there's probably people yelling at their phone or car right now saying how wrong I am. But yeah, it's just something I've been thinking about a little bit recently as I've written every song just a little bit lower, maybe.
What do you mean you've written every song a little bit lower?
If it works in B flat, does it work in A flat? Transpose it a little bit. It's not a hard and fast rule, and it also doesn't mean that you should never write a song in B minor.
Yeah.
At all. It's just, there is a certain weight to some of those lower frequencies.
If you write a song you can write a song in C if you really want to.
For sure.
But you just need to try to use as much as possible D, E, F, G as your kind of main bass notes.
And you can also use harmonic excitement in those sounds.
But bass frequencies aside, Jeff, it was your birthday a couple of days ago.
It was. Thanks for wishing me a happy birthday.
No worries. How was your birthday?
It was really good. I got some amazing gifts from people. And was...
Have you got our gift yet?
I believe I have. You guys gave me a masterclass, and I need to join the system.
We did. I think we gave you all access to all the masterclasses.
Really?
Yeah. So I believe you've got like a year subscription to masterclass.
Mother of pearl.
So it means that you can access kind of any that you want over that course of the year, I believe.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. I saw it in the email and I haven't got to it. I've been quite preoccupied with music stuff recently. But yes, I got your gift. Thank you so much. That's amazing. I got some amazing gifts from my girlfriend. Mum and Dad gave me some strange gifts, but they weren't really gifts. They were just kind of like they wrapped.
What did they give you?
A mug from my old school, and I was like, "Did you go birthday gift shopping for Jeff when you voted?" Because they would have been at the school, the school voting in the state election. And I think their answer was yes. So, yeah, but they said they were going to buy me a NutriBullet or a new blending device because that one that you bought has given up the goat.
Fantastic.
I gave it a good run and it would travel with me, Jonathan. That shaking and blending device traveled to the studio, away from the studio, all sorts of places.
A good NutriBullet needs to be cross-country NutriBullet. And possibly battery-powered if possible.
The other amazing thing, I got a gift today, actually, Jonathan. I made a funny... how do I say this? So Holly, my girlfriend, has a very successful cafe, and she is an amazing baker. Hi, Holly.
Hey, Holly.
She asked me what type of cake I wanted for my birthday. And I was like, like a cheesecake or something. She's like, yeah, I thought you might like a cheesecake. Okay. And then I was like, me and Dan always joke at work about having an afternoon snack. Dan is someone I work with. And he's like, have you got anything that we can just nibble on with that afternoon coffee? A little like sweet little something, Anzac biscuit or something. And he often refers to it as like, have you got like just a little like, I don't know, some sort of Croquembouche or something? And the joke is that a Croquembouche is like quite an elaborate and extravagant dessert. And if you had some sort of Croquembouche just in your car casually, it would be quite funny. We've been saying this for a few years. And so I thought of that and said to Holly, could you make just like a little Croquembouche? And we giggled about it and it was funny. And then it got closer to my birthday and she's like, do you actually want a Croquembouche? And I was like, wow, yeah, profiteroles filled with custard, that would be amazing. I was expecting a pile of profiteroles filled with custard with some toffee on the top. Like, maybe 12 in a pile. The one that I picked up today when I delivered the coffee to her cafe was like wedding cake spec. Croquembouche, and I was blown away. I was like, oh my fucking God. Like, are you serious?
How many separate pieces of profiteroles?
I couldn't tell you. She might be able to, but I'm going to go with like 50 plus. 50, 56. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, like impressive. It had some height. It was like 40 centimeters tall.
Jeez.
Yeah, and it's so cool. Like, it's made around a cone. So it's not filled with profiteroles. It's like made up a cone and then it sets in a cone shape, so it's like hollow in the middle.
So how do you get the cone out?
It's wrapped with some sort of non-stick thing, and then you pull it out. I'm gonna have to ask Holly that, but
It looks incredible.
it is incredible, Jonathan. It was.
Do you reckon it will still be good by the time I get home?
Yep.
No, probably
Definitely.
not.
No.
I can probably find another one, right?
I'm sure you can find some sort of croquembouche somewhere.
If anyone's out there listening that wants to make me a croquembouche, have it ready sometime in the next 2 months.
But then I was able to take it back to the office and share it with the boys and send them home with some, and then drop some past at a mate's house to him and his wife, and then share some with mum and dad. And now it's in the fridge at home, and I'll bring some up to Carl tomorrow, and I'll basically give some to whoever wants some, because it's amazing and there's lots of it, and I can't continue to eat balls of chew pastry filled with custard covered in toffee forever, otherwise I will become the world's fattest man.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want that to happen.
No, but yeah, it was an amazing gift, and like absolutely exceeded all expectations, and was so cool to just be like, what? And I walked in, she's like, Jeff, there's been a problem. So I dropped your croquembouche. We're going to plan B or something. And I was like, oh, I was like, oh, that would be absolutely fine. Like, like, and then I saw it and I was like, whoa, this is insane. And if you would like to see a photo of said croquembouche, just head over to our Instagram and put a croc in your bush.
So it sounds like you really had a great celebration for the last 4 days. It's been like a bit of an extended birthday.
Yeah, it's been great. I think it's been a really positive birthday, and I think I'm looking forward to a really positive year. And
Fantastic. That last bit sounded like you were answering a question in a press conference.
it did. It fucking
yeah.
did.
It's it's been a positive year. I'm like really looking forward to a pretty positive year after the birthday. Yeah, thanks very much. Next question.
I look forward to driving more profits for the shareholders, and I can see us building a really dynamic team around the stakeholders that we're getting involved in this next project.
It's been a tough year, but we've really, the boys pushed through, teamwork, solidarity, courageousness. They gave up a good fight, but we lost this round. I think we'll be back next round, and the grand final is still in our sights.
This is just buzzwords, really, isn't it?
It is, Jeff. It is just buzzwords. How are you going in the studio lately?
Yeah, having like lots of ideas and listening to lots of different kinds of music to inspire different textures. I've been finding that starting a project just with some drones and riding around it, and then like humming things, and then turning that into a few little notes, and then like just playing in the studio, like giving myself the space to just like tinker, and like a song, or part of a song just materializes, and maybe I'll spend 8 hours and I'll write a bunch of music, and the song will begin to form. Or maybe I'll spend an hour and I'll just write something that I can come back to, or you could come to later on, and it's just a song starter. So examples of textures might include like maybe it's a weird little drum loop that then actually turns into like, a pad that I shape using something to give it a rhythm. And then all of a sudden that rhythm makes me think of something else, and I'll like write another little sound over the top of it, and then that leads me to, there's a drum sound that I want over this, or I can often be guilty of it. Unless there's a hi-hat in there, you just don't really know what tempo it is. So you can just like start to groove on something, and then you're like, whoa, is that the one or is that the one? Yeah. And then like getting a metronome or something, you can like find the one, or at least play around with some different kind of grooves. And it's been really fun. I think it's the way I think of it is organizing lots of different sets of paints to paint with later. And then when I feel drawn to a certain project, I'll like go in on that, because there are a few bits and pieces that I want to finish.
Some of the stuff that you sent me little videos of has been really cool, and I am excited to help you turn them into fantastic pieces of music. I think the writing without a metronome, or writing without a hi-hat, or essentially writing without a beat keeper, it really allows you to experiment with and hear things differently. I think as soon as you put a rhythmic aspect behind a song, your ears instantly attach to that timekeeper, and then you hear the song in a certain way.
Yeah, I've been enjoying starting, open a project, put a tempo in there, maybe it's 95, maybe it's 122, maybe it's 140, and just like spending 30 minutes on just like a little jam at that tempo, like just put a drum loop in, and it's like, something, and they'll probably all become drum and bass songs, but they're just like starting little ideas. They're just like things to get the brain moving before diving in on a bigger project.
Thinking in a different way, like you want to think, you don't want to just make something instantly drum and bass. I think starting in a different tempo just allows you to kind of end up writing a different kind of drum and bass tune.
Yeah, how have you been going in the studio?
I'm so hot, man. I need to take my jumper off. I'm sorry. I think I'm getting what you get.
Oh, yeah. It's happening. Are you wearing a collared shirt and a jumper? And another shirt? Like that, of course you're hot. Is the heater on?
Yeah, it's like 26 degrees today.
Really?
Yeah, it's really hot, man.
Spring has sprung.
And I haven't drunk any water. And I've drunk like 4 coffees. No, it's
Oh, you are dehydrated. I can see it.
I don't know how cold it is. It's probably like 10 degrees or something. The sun is trying to come out. Yeah, I've been going good. Like I think I wrote something last week, which was actually stemmed from one of your ideas, which I think has got legs. I think is really cool. And I am trying to basically just do the same thing, just try to have ideas, as many ideas as possible, and not trying to think too much about the mix and not try to overthink things, just try to like get it out. I saw that DKN, shout out to Dean, is doing 30 tunes in 30 days, which is a really interesting little challenge, because you obviously just have to get 30 ideas out and not think about it and just like vibe as much as possible. So I am definitely not taking on that challenge, but I'm trying to keep a bit of that essence in stuff that I've been doing lately. Even if it's just spending a couple of hours on something, just trying to get a new idea, just until something keeps me in the studio. I think like the tune that you sent over that I've worked on last week, I didn't want to stop working on it, and I just kept having ideas and was just like,
that's cool. The tune draws you in.
Yeah, and listening to that instinct more, and following that gut instinct rather than kind of pushing a square peg through a round hole, as it were.
Are you thinking that you might like to do a little challenge like that for your hotel quarantine?
I was thinking that maybe.
Or do you think setting yourself a different goal?
I think setting myself a different goal.
As in learn most of the lines from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about doing that, or I was thinking about converting all of the 3 latest Star Wars films into screenplays, like not just the script, but trying to convert them to the closest screenplay as possible with camera movement and blocking included. But I feel as I get closer to my quarantine date, I feel like that could be a colossal waste of time. So
most definitely.
I feel
like a document that might already exist.
It definitely does. I think I might take on some sort of challenge. I'm definitely going into it with a plan, as it were. And you want to use that time to be quite productive as one can be.
But also, moderate
setting myself
expectations.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be like, I'm going to write a tune every day and then land and get into quarantine and be like, I'm really fucking tired today. Like you have to
I'm just going to eat some pasta and lay in the bed.
Yeah. I'm pretty happy with some of the stuff that I'm writing at the moment. And that's what I'm going to do this afternoon. / going to go try to say goodbye to another friend. But if that falls through, I'm going to just work on a stinker.
Oh, something smelly.
It's today's goal. Yeah, I just feel like I haven't written a lot of the stuff I've been writing lately has just been all like melodic based stuff. Like so quickly my brain just draws to the chords.
But you can do that in an intro and you just start with a drop.
Yeah. I know that. But when I'm going to create, I don't start with. So often, if I start writing a patch or something like that, I'll create a cool bass sound, but then I instantly go to the intro. Like I don't really focus on kind of the DJ tool stuff, and I feel like I would like to write something like that. Get something that you can just play in Sydney. Just test this thing out.
Yeah, man, that'd be really cool. You definitely do not tend to write those tunes. I think was it Melt? That you wrote the intro and I wrote the drop.
Yeah,
essentially. Recently got told by someone who is a
father figure.
No, a lovely guy and a dubstep DJ producer. I chatted to him very briefly, and then he was like, "Your tunes are really good. I really like your song, except there's one that I do not like." And I laughed. I said, "That's such a funny review." And then he came and found me like 20 minutes later, maybe even longer, and he was like, "It's Melt. It's fucking Melt." And I was like, "That's fucking hilarious that you don't like that song, because it's definitely not for everyone." And I also think it's kind of a bit different and strange. And there's a lot going on in that song.
It's funny to.
I play it. I've been playing it a lot. Like,
I think it's great. It's fun, but it is funny to hear that tune. That's like the review. That's like, I like everything except this one.
I always assume that people aren't going to like Paper Birds.
Yeah,
for some reason, just because it's like the newest tune.
I think for me, everyone, Paper Birds seems to be the one that people really, really vibe with lately. Like I kind of also expect that, but it's Paper Birds and Synchronized that people always talk to me about.
And they would be our top songs.
According to Spotify.
Yes.
You mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Paper Birds, Underloved, Synchronized, Discipline, Let the Light in 2020.
Let Light in 2020. I mean, Jeff, this is going to be great because we're about to cross over the threshold of 1 million plays with 3 songs.
Ooh, Synchronize is real close.
Synchronize is real close. Paper Birds is real close. Let the Light in 2020 is real close. Underloved has gone to 2.5 million. So,
and when we do, just so the listener knows, when we do get over 1 million plays, Spotify sends us a briefcase full of money, and they go, "You've made it. You've finally fucking made it."
yeah, that's my favorite part of it.
That's the reason you do it. Like, that's the best part of this whole, like, you know, they will tell you a little secret. That's what they do in the music business. They say, when you hit 1 million, get ready to celebrate. No, it's fucking business as fucking usual. It's just a cool milestone.
Yeah, I think it's important to celebrate milestones. I think
absolutely.
You know, to know that your song has been listened to 1 million times is just like a pretty cool metric to have. Like, you know, say what you want about royalty splits and whatever about streaming. It's a cool thing to see, I think. And it just affirms you that you're doing the right thing and you're on the right path and people like your fucking music, which is...
And it's touching people.
Yeah, it's touching people and it's something to be celebrated and something to be reminded of. It's kind of what gets you through, you know?
Absolutely.
It's what gets you through. All right, Jeff, it's been a great conversation, but I'm pulling the pin.
Yeah, you're feeling motivated?
I'm feeling motivated. I want to go make something that reminds me of examples and Lomax's The Latter.
Ooh, big tune. One last little snippet for anyone that's still listening. I recently watched the first 40 minutes of the Billie Eilish documentary. It's kind of shit. It just seems like a bunch of cobbled together home footage, which is kind of interesting, apart from the fact that like it's all from the last 3 years or 4 years. So like, of course you've got more home footage of that stuff, like, because everyone's on their phones. So it doesn't seem as found. But that aside, it's really great to look at her and her brother's writing process and them writing songs together and having the jam. And it really inspired me to want to get into the studio. One, by myself, but also I can't wait to be in the studio with you where we're jamming and vibing out and being like, yes, 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 keep going, do that. And yeah, it was really cool.
Okay. Sick. How do you watch it?
It's on Apple TV Plus.
There's too many pluses. There's too many streaming services. I'm subscribed to too many OnlyFans. It's just all too much money coming out of the account every month. It's getting confusing. It's getting overwhelming. I'm going to shut them all down. I'm going to shut down all my streaming service. I'm just going to cut it all out and go back to watching classic GWN and Win, the two rural regional channels on TV.
In Australia. It's probably for the best.
I think it's for the best. Right before the quarantine, I think that's a great idea. No, sick. I'll check it out. I think we'll be able to get it somehow on Amazon Prime or something.
Well, it's an Apple Plus thing.
Well, okay, yeah. So I'll be able to get it on Netflix.
Well, I'm sure you'll be able to, get
I
some.
won't be able to get it. No, yeah, I'll download it legally. But it sounds like a great watch and an inspiring documentary.
Well, it's not that great. Maybe we can watch part of it together sometime. It's not something you have to rush out and watch now. There's probably YouTube videos that'll give you just the same amount of a little inspirational zing.
I like the brother-sister relationship though, and I do enjoy seeing siblings work together, as obviously it reflects our relationship and can act as inspiration.
I concur.
Okay, buddy. Thanks for that. I'm glad you had a great birthday.
Thanks, man.
And I will speak to you next week.
You sure will. Also, here's another PPS. Thanks for all the comments about last week's podcast. We weren't sure how it was going to be received. We just shot from the hip and did it from our heart, and we've had some beautiful comments and people really appreciated it. It's the first podcast that our parents have listened to. I sent it to mum and dad, and they sat in their chairs and they listened to it, and they enjoyed it and they thought it was interesting. Mum didn't like the swears, but that aside, she was like, yeah, it's lovely to hear that she's raised two good sons like that. Thank you so much for anyone that got in touch. And if you haven't listened to it, go and check out last week's episode.
It's a good one. And we will be speaking to someone about the subject more in the next week, I think. If you've enjoyed this episode, or if you enjoy previous episodes, feel free to give us a review on your podcast app. You can review on the Apple Podcasts app pretty easily, and it really helps us rise in the podcast rankings and
so tell your friends as well.
And increases visibility. Yeah, or tell your friends and spread the word. Spread the good word of the A Band Apart podcast.
All right, buddy. I love you. I'll chat to you soon.
Okay, I love you too, buddy. Bye. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us on your podcast app and keep up to date with all new episodes. They're going to be coming out once a week. We are Ekko and Sidetrack on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, we are Ekko Sidetrack. Go listen to our music on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube, or wherever your ears consume happiness. Lots of love, people.